World 24/7. I'm Vedant Agarwal. Well, coming up on the show, former US President Jimmy Carter has died, and also some tragic news from South Korea. Over 175 people have died in what has been South Korea's worst ever airplane crash. All of that and more coming up. First, a quick look at the headlines at this hour. Former US President Jimmy Carter dies at 100. Nobel Peace Prize recipient Jimmy Carter has died. The Empire State Building lit in red, white and blue in his honor. The worst airline disaster in South Korea in over 30 years. 179 confirmed dead in the Jeju airplane crash. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's three-day visit to Qatar. The foreign minister to review bilateral relations. His visit in the backdrop of the conflict in West Asia. Elon Musk backs H-1B visas. Musk asks H-1B critics to take a big step back. In Suchir Balaji's death, Musk backs his mother. Well, Elon Musk says it doesn't seem like a suicide. This as OpenAI whistleblower was member found dead in the US. A big year for Indian space. Well, ISRO is all set to launch its SPAD-X mission, India's final space mission for 2024. Our lead story on the World 24/7 this morning. Well, Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, has died at 100. Carter was surrounded by his family at his home in Georgia. In his final moments, this is what the Carter Center has said in a statement. Remember, US President Joe Biden remembered Carter as a dear friend and an extraordinary leader in a statement, while President-elect Donald Trump said Americans owe the former president a debt of gratitude. Preparations are underway for a state funeral. Carter was a peanut farmer and US Navy lieutenant before going into politics, eventually serving one term as the governor of Georgia and as president of the United States from 1977 to 1981. He was the only former US president to reach 100 years old. And look at those pictures of the Empire State Building lit in red, white and blue in the honor of the former president. And moving now to some tragic news from South Korea. Well, all 179 passengers have died in what has been one of South Korea's worst airline disasters in history. Well, over 175 passengers, all passengers, and 2 out of the 4 crew members have died in this absolutely horrific tragedy. In fact, in those pictures, you can see the final moments being captured on camera as well, when the flight skidded off slightly and then crashed into a wall and burst into flames. Look at those pictures of the aftermath of that absolutely horrific crash. Well, the black box has been recovered, the flight data recorder. That's going to be important to ascertain the exact cause of the crash. That is still unknown. Remember, the airline, the Jeju Air CEO, in fact, has said that we take full responsibility for the tragedy.
The final days of 2024 have seen a number of aviation accidents, from some near misses, such as in Canada, a miraculous rescue in Kazakhstan, to an accident that shook the world in South Korea. One of the worst civil aviation disasters to hit South Korea in modern history. Roughly 179 people are dead after a flight from Bangkok carrying 181 passengers and crew crashed at the Muan airport in the early hours of Sunday. The second such crash in the past week. Only 2 crew members have been rescued so far. Footage of the final moments before the crash show the Boeing 737-800 attempting a belly landing before skidding down the runway with no visible landing gear, slamming into the airport's perimeter wall and bursting into an explosion of flames. While the blaze was put off, the wreckage is unrecognizable, making search and rescue a difficult endeavor. Officials have revealed that of the 175 passengers aboard the flight, 173 were Korean nationals and 2 were Thai nationals. Jeju Airlines has issued an apology, with the CEO taking full responsibility for the tragedy and bowing deeply before the nation in a televised address. Taking to X, Thailand's Prime Minister has also expressed her condolences and ordered a probe into the disaster.
먼저 제주항공을 아껴주시는 모든 분들께 머리 숙여 사과의 말씀을 드립니다. 무엇보다 이번 사고로 인해서 유명을 달리하신 탑승객분들과 유가족분들께 깊은 애도와 사과의 말씀을 올립니다. 현재로서는 사고의 원인을 가늠하기 어렵고 관련 정부 기관의 공식적인 조사 발표를 기다려야 하는 상황입니다.
The big question, the cause of the crash remains a mystery. While a probe is ongoing, the South Korean Transport Ministry has revealed that a bird strike warning was issued moments before the crash. Visuals also show the airplane's landing gear reportedly failed to deploy. The crash comes as South Korea continues to face political turmoil, with the third acting president taking office in the past 2 months. While families nervously await for answers, all eyes will remain on South Korea to see how it navigates past this tragedy. With Disha Bagchi, NDTV Bureau Report.
And joining me on the show this morning, Bill Gallow, who is the sole bureau chief of Voice of America. Thanks very much, Bill, for being with us this morning. What an absolutely horrific tragedy, and it's been a week of horrific aviation disasters across the world. But looking at what happened in South Korea, the worst disaster in South Korean history, at least in the past 3 decades. The black box has been recovered, the flight data recorder, but the exact cause of the incident is still unknown.
Yeah, there's really a lot of questions that remain here. I mean, I think the biggest one as we're thinking about this is how could a bird strike, an alleged bird strike, lead to a malfunctioning landing gear? Aviation experts say that is not typical at all. And then how do the other elements play into this? I mean, there are some confusing elements. Eyewitnesses report seeing some sort of engine explosion or fire on the ground moments before this plane attempted to land. Then there are other questions, such as why did airport authorities not lay sand or some kind of barrier down that would have slowed that plane in its final moments there before it crashed into the wall, which of course is the last question. Why was there a brick wall at the end of a runway? These are all questions that will need to be answered. There may not be a satisfying answer for several weeks or months because that's the nature of how these investigations sometimes go.
Also, Bill, I think you made an important point. There are many unanswered questions. The airport's authority need to, in a sense, come clean as well. But speaking of the airline, the Jeju Airline CEO has said that the airline takes full responsibility for the tragedy, but that's not enough given the fact that, 179 people have died in this tragedy.
Yeah, this is a serious, serious incident. These were Koreans, many of whom are coming back from holidays, vacations in Bangkok, Thailand, and you have a lot of upset people here that will demand answers. Right now, we have a strange situation with South Korea's government. There's a lot of people in very senior acting positions because of the political turmoil as laid out in your report. However, I think it's fair to say at this point that authorities are doing everything they can so far to ensure that the aviation system is safe. The acting president today ordered a review of South Korea's entire aviation system. We'll see what is the result of that. But at this point, all I can say is that authorities are treating this very seriously, and we know very little about what caused this accident so far.
Absolutely. And my last question to you, Bill, as much as it's about, the investigation which has been ordered by the Thailand administration, it's also about the human angle of the story, given the fact that 179 lives have been lost. I mean, we saw all those reports of how family members completely devastated and unimaginably so. But you know, what you're picking up is that outrage, anger against the airlines, and you know, what you're picking up as far as the bodies are concerned. Have they reached the families?
They're still in the process of sort of identifying all the bodies. This was a gruesome scene. The reports that have come out, from that site have been quite tragic and ugly, to be honest. I mean, this was a plane that you can see there in the video. It did not remain together. It exploded in a ball of flames. The reports have indicated that many of the passengers were actually thrown from the plane. I think that sort of complicated both the rescue effort and then the collection of these bodies once they were found to be deceased. So there is a lot of anger. There's also a lot of anger because at least some of these passengers apparently were communicating with family and friends on the ground. One Korean media outlet, in fact, reported that someone on that plane said, "We see a bird stuck in the wing. It seems we're going to have difficulty landing, and these may be my final words." In fact, that was his final words. And many tragic stories coming out right now from this incident.
Absolutely, Bill. Thanks very much for being with us. I think you described it well. What an absolutely gruesome tragedy there. 179 people dying in what has been South Korea's worst ever airline disaster. But moving now to, well, a week of aviation disasters across the world. What comes to mind is what happened in Kazakhstan. Remember the Azerbaijani airplane that crashed, and well, 38 people had died. Remember, Russia had issued an apology. In fact, Vladimir Putin apologized for the incident, saying that it was an absolute tragedy. In fact, Azerbaijan's president has accused Russia of accidentally shooting down an airliner on Christmas Day in a disaster that killed 38 people, as I said. Remember, Russia's silence was raising a lot of questions. Kremlin said that, well, Russia was firing at Ukraine at the time of the disaster, stopping short in a sense of saying that it indeed was a Russian weapon that may have struck that aircraft. And looking at some other news now, well, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to implement the toughest anti-US policy. This is what the state media has reported. Less than a month before Donald Trump takes office as US president, Trump's return to the White House raises prospects for high-profile diplomacy with North Korea. During his first term, Trump met Kim 3 times for talks on the North's nuclear program. Many experts, however, say a quick resumption of Kim-Trump symmetry is unlikely, as Trump would first focus on conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. North Korea's support for Russia's war against Ukraine also poses a challenge to efforts to revive diplomacy, as per experts. Meanwhile, Georgia on Sunday inaugurated governing party loyalist Mikhail Kavilashvili as president, despite his election being declared illegitimate by outgoing leaders and opposition groups. Well, the far-right former footballer was sworn in at a parliamentary ceremony moments after outgoing President Salom Zurabishvili said that she was the only legitimate president and vowed to fight on against the Georgian Dream Party that controls parliament. In other news, Croatia's incumbent president Zoran Milanovic thanked his supporters after winning most of the votes in the first round of a presidential election on Sunday, but must face a runoff against a ruling party candidate to secure another 5-year term. With nearly all of the votes counted, left-leaning Milanovic won 49%, while his main challenger, a candidate of the ruling conservative HDZ, trailed far behind with 19%. In a speech at the election headquarters, Milanovic said, "I would invite everyone to get out and vote in the runoff in even greater numbers. I ask everyone," he said, "to give me a show of trust, human trust and faith, and I will do everything not to disappoint them." Pre-election polls had predicted that the two would face off in the second round on January the 12th. Meanwhile, a Pakistani paramilitary soldier was killed and 7 others were wounded in cross-border exchanges of fire with Afghanistan's forces. This is what a security source said on Saturday, while hundreds of Afghans protested against the deadly airstrikes that sparked the clashes. Remember, sporadic fighting, including with heavy weaponry, erupted overnight between border forces on the frontier between Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the province in Pakistan, and Khost province in Afghanistan. This is what officials from both the countries have said. With that, we'll take a short break now, but lots more coming up right here on The World 24/7. Welcome back. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar is all set to visit Qatar starting today for a 3-day review of bilateral ties, especially in trade, investment, energy and security. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that Jaishankar will meet the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani. In fact, this visit becomes important in the backdrop of the conflict in West Asia and also India's diplomacy as far as the Middle East is concerned. Of course, the focus is very much on trade, energy, security, but also people-to-people connect. That has become a key cornerstone of Prime Minister Modi and S. Jaishankar's diplomacy. And now the big visa conundrum in the US. Well, President-elect Donald Trump seems to align with Elon Musk and other tech industry supporters amid a dispute over immigration visas that has caused division among the Trump camp. Well, Musk this week threatened to go to war with MAGA Republicans after he defended visas for skilled foreigners over America-born employees. This also comes as data suggests 72% H-1B visas were given to Indians in the past year. So certainly a softer approach perhaps as far as H-1B visas are concerned. So good news certainly for Indian techies.
With President-elect Donald Trump set to return to office in less than a month, it appears a new flashpoint has emerged in American politics. It's Musk versus the populist Make America Great Again movement over the prized H-1B visa, with the Tesla chief now threatening to go to war on the matter. It seems that while Trump has appointed billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to advise the government on efficiency, they are also pushing his upcoming administration to bring in more foreign tech workers. So how did this debate emerge? Over the past week, MAGA supporters, Trump's crucial voter base, have been slamming the president-elect for appointing Indian origin Sriram Krishnan as his AI advisor, calling his decision not America first. Musk and Ramaswamy backed Krishnan, defending the tech industry's need to bring in foreign workers. Now, Trump too appears to be siding with Musk, saying he always liked H-1B visas. So what is the H-1B visa? The H-1B visa is one of the most highly competitive visas in the US immigration system's complex catalogue, with big tech companies including Amazon, Google and Tesla among the highest recipients. In 2024, over 85,000 visas were approved, but over 400,000 applications were received. The H-1B visa is geared towards professionals and skilled workers and are most often used by the software engineers and others in the tech industry, making it critical for hard-to-fill positions. More than 7 in 10 recipients of H-1B visas are from India, followed by China, Canada, and South Korea. Ahead of Trump's return, the Biden administration announced an overhaul in the H-1B visa program, aiming to modernize the program, speed up applications, and impose penalties on companies abusing the system, a complaint Trump and the MAGA movement have had in the past. These changes include automatic extensions for full-time students, easier extensions for other students, and revising the definition of specialty occupation. The new rules will come into effect on Jan 17, 2025, 3 days before Trump enters office. The big tech industry hopes that tech giants like Musk, who have developed a strong bond with the president-elect, could convince Trump to offer more visas to highly skilled foreign workers. All eyes will now be on the new Trump administration to see how it will impact the H-1B visa program and how it will impact India. Disha Bagchi for NDTV.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk has backed Suchir Balaji's mother, Purnima Ramarao's claims of foul play in her son's mysterious death. Balaji, a former employee at ChatGPT parent OpenAI, accused the company of violating copyright laws in October. A month later, he was found dead in his US apartment. In an October interview with the New York Times, Balaji shared his disillusionment after realizing that OpenAI's practices, especially its use of internet source data to train AI models, could be infringing on copyright laws. In an interview with Business Insider on Thursday, Balaji's mother, Purnima Ramarao, shared her son's journey, his growing concerns about OpenAI, and the disillusionment leading to his decision to leave the company. And well, what a year it has been for Indian space, and it's going to be the last launch of 2024 for ISRO. ISRO is undertaking a space mission like never before, where innovation is written on every aspect. For the first time, India will attempt to dock and undock 2 satellites in space. On the 62 number launch of the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, India is undertaking a SPARDEX mission, the space docking experiment.
India is ready to do a very unique experiment in space, a docking, undocking experiment of 2 satellites. 2 satellites traveling at a velocity higher than the velocity of a bullet will be brought together in the vacuum of space, then separated out, all in an effort to master what is called docking and undocking in space. A technology that will be useful for India for its future Chandrayaan-4 mission, and also for creating the Bharatiya Antariksh Station, which has to be made ready by 2035. And finally, when an Indian has to land on the surface of the moon, the same docking-undocking experiment will help in that process. This is also a learning stage: how to refuel a satellite in space, how to charge another satellite in space, and very importantly, docking, undocking, rendezvous, and close approach to a satellite will give India the capability of doing surveillance in space. Docking, undocking has been mastered only by Russia, America, and China, and now India attempting it on its own steam. A big Hanuman leap for India and the Indian Space Research Organization. Docking, undocking is a very tricky exercise. In New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
So all eyes on that big launch. But moving now to some sports news. Well, South Africa overcame Pakistan by 2 wickets in a breathless conclusion at Centurion on Sunday to win the first test and become the first team to qualify for the ICC World Test Championship Final 2025 at Lord's from the 11th to 15th of June next year, barring any subsequent point deductions. And finally, it's been an incredible year for Indian chess. After Pragnananda, Gukesh, now Grandmaster Koneru Humpy capped off a wonderful year for Indian chess, defeating Indonesia's champion to emerge the FIDE's Women's World Rapid Chess Champion in New York. Humpy had won the event back in 2019 at Georgia, and the Indian #1 is only the 2nd player after China's champion to clinch the title more than once. And well, that's all the time that we have on the World 24/7 this morning. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.